Since 1959, the West End of Kingston, Jamaica has throbbed with a musical beat, a hypnotic sound of surging excitement and power. People hearing it became caught up in a frenzy and couldn't help moving to this pulsating, almost religious beat. This is Ska.
Ska, a musical genre that started in Kingston, Jamaica in the late 50s, an almost peculiar sound of the country's homegrown genre known as mento. Worldwide jazz played for tourists of the colony, and snippet of American blues caught on radio frequencies. The genre mainly consisted of horns, trumpets, piano, drums, sometimes even vocals, but it was the rhythm that ska had which attracted the masses of Kingston, Jamaica and beyond. It was this fun, upbeat, and different sound that got people to their feet for them to put on their best shoes and dance. The music was enjoyed by hundreds indoors in crowded dance halls or outside in the humidity of wire fences, and huge homemade speakers used to broadcast the sound of ska to everyone. The DJs of the time were called sound system operators, and every night they played new tracks for the masses to get down to by artists such as Prince Buster, Desmond Dekker, Derek Morgan, and even the young Bob Marley. Songs were recorded in the day to be played at night, but within these recordings and the sound system operators who played them, there was great tension. So much so that there were actual turf wars between the sound system operators for the biggest crowd of people. They were known as clashes. People aligned themselves with certain sound systems, which spawned groups such as the Rude Boys. They dressed to the nines, wore sunglasses at night time, and were tasked by sound system operators to break up dances by competitor sound system operators, just to crash the party. Ska. Ska? Ska. Ska. You may be asking yourself, where the heck does the word ska actually come from? Well, it was Maureen Cleave, a 60s music journalist, who originally got the word into print in 1964.
Well, it's interesting to think that I was the first person to write about it in March 1964, but in fact I'd never been to Jamaica, and I got all the information from a young man called Chris Blackwell, who came from Jamaica with a whole load of ska records in a suitcase, and then he sold them off to record shops on the back of his Mini, and then he went on to found Island Records and was hugely successful.
The most popular theory of the word is that it was derived from the sound that the guitar makes on the upstroke. Ska, ska, ska. This basically nails the matter, but delve a little deeper and you'll see that everybody in Kingston, Jamaica has their own theory. Theory 1.
Alright.
I'll tell you where ska came from. Ska came from my husband, Clement Seymour Dodd. Whenever he used to be in the studios with his musicians, he would just come in and he has an idea and he would just come in and say, ska, 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 just to get the beat, and you would hear the music going the same way. Yeah, that's it.
Theory 2. The word comes from a greeting used by one of Clement Dodd's friends, Clewett J. Johnson.
Clewett, the late Clewett Johnson. When me and Mr. Dodd, sometimes they were in the bar drinking, and he would say, Skavulde, Skavulde, Skavulde.
It came from Skavulde. It's an abbreviation of Skavulde.
I knew Clewett Johnson. I knew about his term Skavulde, but I don't think it was the beginning of ska.
The tension of the previously mentioned sound systems may have not just produced words like rude boy or dancehall crashers. Only ska legend Prince Buster claims to know the true origins of the word. Theory 3. Ska comes from scatter.
How the word came to the dance hall, we had a friend named Scatter. Right? It came off of his name. Don't make them tell you no foolishness about it come. It come off of Luke and Charles Street. Scatter name. It just have to scat, mean move. I was telling Duke and Coxon, I have come, move. S-K-A. Scat. It came from right here. Don't make nobody change your mouth and tell you about there is any other music street. There is only one music street. What name? Harrin Street.
I think that all three theories have something going for them. Prince Buster's scatter reminds us of the intense rivalry of the early sound systems, and how the rivalry caused the start of the iconic ska figurehead, or the private language used by musicians to communicate in secret, or most commonly the sound that the guitar makes. And after all, in ska, it was the instrumentation that meant the most to the people. It was that iconic mix of the walking bass, upstroke guitar, drums, and horns. And if you put it all together, but surely that's how words work. Hard to pin down, but highly evocative of the time and the place that they were formed. It was by the mid-60s that ska saw its decline in Kingston, Jamaica, and Jamaica as a whole, and would go on to form reggae and rocksteady. But the foundations were laid out, and all it took was a trip east to kick off the second wave of ska.
Get up in the morning, saving alphabets, so that to every mouth can be fed.
Remember Desmond Dekker? It was his song Israelites that climbed the UK charts to its inevitable number one, almost like a breath of fresh air, as the UK had not even heard of ska or anything close to it.
I got to tell her, shut the material choices to go. I don't want to end up like Bonnie and Clyde.
Let's not forget, England was badly bruised and turned to its remote colonial population, i.e. Jamaica, to help rebuild. These people migrating to the UK had children, and so by the 1970s, the population had spiked, leading to vast racial tensions on every street corner.
But what exactly do you do when you see Pakistanis?
Sometimes we eat them, sometimes we just leave them. Pakis ain't so much your enemy, they're just like a pastime, aren't they?
Pakis?
Just jump them. It's not their colour, because, you know, the Jamaicans are alright.
A lot of Jamaican mates. I mean, they don't like Pakistanis either.
Causing an economic downturn, energy crisis, and cut wages across the whole board of the UK. The government at the time had left their already tense population in the dirt, and post-Empire Britain was left in a struggle to fight for itself.
I mean, it was kicking off here, man. You know, we had riots in the late 70s, talking massive unemployment, 3-day weeks, rise of the National Front. The popular music of the time was like a million miles removed from the feeling on the street. The cultural climate was pretty dread. Me and the brothers, we had a soundtrack to ease our pain. We had reggae, but my white mates weren't so lucky. So my white mates set about creating a soundtrack that was relevant to their situation, sort of the people, for the people, by the people.
London was the centre of the punk rock universe, which attracted those seeking refuge from the harsh economic climate at the time, as well as those standard pop acts such as Stevie Wonder or Elton John. And just as it happens, all these white punk rockers had black people living right next door to them, such as some serious cultural exchange amongst the youth. As said by Don Lett in an interview with Noisy, "We weren't aliens, we weren't exotic, we were their mates." Movements such as Rock Against Racism were set up to put down the increasing support for the neo-Nazi National Front at the ballot box. This movement involved punk and reggae bands playing together on stage at the same time to bring together black and white fans in their common love of music, in order to discourage young people from embracing racism. It was movements like these that fueled the original second wave ska band, The Special. Instead of two bands playing either punk or reggae on stage at the same time, you had one single lineup of multiracial musicians playing a mixture of reggae, Jamaican ska, and punk rock. The first stable lineup of the band consisted of lead vocals by Terry Hall and Neville Staple, backed by guitarists Linville Golding and Roddy Radiation Byers, bass by Horace Panther, drums by John Bradbury, brass by Dick Cuffle and Rico Rodriguez, but most importantly, keyboardist and musical prodigy Jerry Dammers, both white and black musicians who all grew up in multiracial Coventry, which was a rarity at the time.
Think of your future, else you wind up in jail. Why must you record my phone calls?
Their first single, Gangsters, was released on Dammers' record label, Two Tone Records, the logo for the second wave of ska. The monochrome tracks were a symbol of the multiracial lineup of the band, as well as the band's whole message promoting racial unity. Black and white, intertwined, peacefully, in harmony. The Sharpshooted Man, a callback to the old rude boy image of Kingston, Jamaica, dubbed Walt Jabsco.
I mean, they're singing about unemployment, they're singing about racism, they're singing about teenage pregnancy. The bands are actually multiracial, and they signposted the way that UK culture was heading.
After a mixed reception of their second album, The Specials released the Ghost Town EP, which is the title track which shaped the UK. Dammers' tune contained discordant horns, haunted chords, and demonic vocal harmonies, made for something that wasn't exactly easy listening.
This place is coming like a ghost town. No job to be found in this country. Can't go on no more. People getting hungry.
The song itself was inspired from the Specials touring the UK and seeing the state that the UK was in under Thatcher's rule and how she was closing down the industry, leaving the entire population on the shelf. Meanwhile, riots ripped through the whole of the UK, from Brixton to Birmingham to London to Handsworth, and other disturbances finding themselves located in many other towns. And with Ghost Town sitting it comfortably at number 1, it showed how much the people of the UK chimed with the lyrics and the message of the song, and how it wasn't just a catchy tune. The Specials had somehow perfectly summed up a moment of history in 3 minutes and 40 seconds of audio. And so from the brooding to the mad.
Now, what is it you want?
Well, we're in a group and we'd like to play it.
What do you call yourselves?
Madness.
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 7 musicians from Camden came up with something called the Nutty sound.
We were doing all sorts of strange things. I mean, it always has been a very eclectic mixture. I really loved the Kinks, as did a number of the bands. And we also loved Desmond Dekker, and we loved the Coasters, and you put all the component parts in. And then you throw in a bit of Ian Jury, and a touch of the funfair, sprinkle of fairy dust.
A bit nutty.
The back end of 1979 saw Madness officially join the second wave ska movement after the Specials had performed in a local pub in Camden, who Madness just happened to be at. After the show, the band hung around to talk to their fans.
And after the show I got talking to Jerry, who came back and stayed at my mum's flat. And it was there that he announced that he was going to start a record label called Two Tone.
This saw Madness go on a tour with the Specials, fittingly named the Two Tone Tour.
Naughty boys in nasty schools, headmasters breaking all the rules, having fun and playing pool, smashing up the woodwork tools.
And so by 1980, Madness were massive. One of their most memorable songs, and also their most successful track of the year, was this, Baggy Trousers.
It was out about this, well, shortly after Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd, which was all about public school alienation, and I wrote that as a bit of I wrote Baggy Trousers as a kind of antithesis to that. That, you know, the school I went to, the teachers were allowed the same misery as the pupils. You know, it was an ongoing battle, and we weren't subjugated like maybe some of those Pink Floyd boys. We noticed shortly after that when we were on tour, you'd get this big gang of kids who couldn't get in the venue, but would just come listen to the Doors or just come and see us, who were under 16s. And so eventually we ended up doing matinee shows. Suddenly we were the Fagins of the schoolyard.
Lots of girls and lots of boys, lots of smells and lots of noise, playing football in the park, kicking push bikes after dark, baggy trousers, dirty shirt, pulling hair and eating dirt, teacher comes through breaking up, back of the head with a plastic cup.
On the other side though, it wasn't all fun and games like Madness had wanted it to be. Racist skinheads bombarded some of the Two Tone record shows, specifically Madness, Two Tone's only all-white band. This led to much of the unknowing public thinking Madness supported the racist neo-Nazi skinheads. This was exactly the opposite of the message of Two Tone.
We were very unpolitical, yeah, we were very naive, and yeah, I mean, we had some problems with skinheads and all that, and it took us a little time to realise that we were going to have to be a bit more serious about what we thought. Embarrassment was written by Lee Thompson, and it was about his sister who'd had a baby with a black guy, and some of his peripheral relations and some of his neighbours and stuff had been having a go at her, and that was kind of an answer to them. And that was what was most ironic about people saying that they thought maybe we were racist in some way, you know, when you just had to listen to the songs really, although we were too naive maybe to say those words as clearly in everyday life.
To move your feet to the rockinest, rock-steady beat of madness. One step beyond.
It was by 1986 that Madness had split up for a multitude of reasons, but mainly musical differences. They came back together in 1992, and as recently as 2016, Madness released their 12th studio album, titled Can't Touch Us Now.
One step beyond.
And from the brooding, to the mad, to the even more mad?
A Stoke Newington delicacy, pork pie and pickled onions.
What? You're joking, of course.
No, this is all good stuff.
Oh, you're not going to eat that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're not. You're not going to eat that.
It's just a matter of taste, isn't it? Some people have it and other people haven't.
From the doom and gloom of Tory rule, from the light of the outlandish, huge-tongued, and shaven-headed frontman, bust the blood vessel and his band of merry men.
Thatcher's Britain. Oh yeah, I remember it so well, yeah. The times were that hard that for me there wasn't anybody who was happy, and so that's why we went that happy route, I suppose.
A loose collection of London musicians formed in 1976 after hearing the memorable two-tone ska sound of the mid-70s, and they released their take on it, their first hit being typically philosophical. Other hits included Lip Up Fatty, Lorraine, and Special Brew. Two-Tone Records featured more than just these bands though. Others included The Beat, The Selector, and The Body Snatchers. How does that old saying go? If we don't know our past, then we are doomed to repeat it. The messages of Two-Tone are relevant more today than ever before, and they all fall under the same principle. If we the people see something we don't like in the world, there's really only one thing we can do. Come together and make some noise.
This is a fair request, and I promise I will not judge any person only as a teenager. If you will constantly remind yourself that some of my generation judges people by their race, their belief, or the color of their skin, and that this is no more right than saying all teenagers are drunken dope addicts or glue sniffers.
Of how you looked and how you act and how you think. Pretend they're not the same as you. But you think it's strange that there's a way of how you looked and how you act and how you think.
Throw it back to 1987. Berkeley, California opened up a punk rock club called Gilmore Street, a place run by the punks for the punks. Seeing this venue pop up, a group called Operation Ivy formed and started playing their take on British two-tone ska.
Try to describe it to the limit of my
Other bands followed suit all over America, such as the Mighty Mighty Bosstones and the Toasters on the East Coast and Fishbone on the West Coast. They didn't know it at the time, but it was soon that these groups would become members of the third wave of ska. Compared to the other waves of ska, third wave sat mainly in the shadows, underground and tucked away from the mainstream, but that all changed when the even faster third wave scene broke and the Gwen Stefani-led band, No Doubt, got on the radio.
Oh, Gwendolyn! Where's she at? Gwen Stefani from No Doubt. Say what's up, all right?
We were this local band who had had this great, super fun 8 or 9 year long run as just having so many great shows.
And they sort of were like the big local band for a really, really, really long time before they ever broke.
Can we talk about ska for a second? Is there a revival happening, or is it just a coincidence?
I think it's a coincidence. What do you guys think?
I think that ska will remain underground. I don't know why, but the people who are into the traditional ska don't really like the commercial aspect, the commercial success of it for some reason. They want to hold it back. We just play whatever music we feel like it. So if we throw in a ska song here or there, it's all the same to us.
Right. No limits here.
But it was Orange County in California where the majority of the most influential ska bands were formed. Bands like Real Big Fish, a band with the lead singer who quit his job at Subway, wrote a song about selling out to record labels that got plastered all over the radio, got signed to a major record label, and never turned back.
Sell out with me, oh yeah, sell out with me tonight. The record companies only give me lots of money and everything's gonna be alright.
What's funny about a song called Sellout being a big hit on the radio and MTV? Our record label had a good sense of humor.
Bands like the Aquabats, a group of mentalists just looking to have some fun, exploded onto the scene, wearing superhero-esque outfits, complete with flying drum sets, songs about zombies, and even a TV show at some point down the line.
It's silly, and sexy sells, but silly can also sell if you package it right. So my thought was, if we could get a TV show and do a kids show, we could still play music, we could still tour, we could still do basically essentially what we're doing, but we just have to make a TV show during the day.
Bands like Safe Ferris, inspired by the female-led No Doubt, with the brilliantly red-haired Monique Powell.
Oh, hi. My name is Monique. I'm in a band called Safe Ferris.
So I came into the ska world mostly because I grew up in the center. We kind of call it ground zero for the third wave of ska, which was in Orange County in Southern California. I knew this is where I need to be. And I'm in the right place at the right time, and I better take advantage of this.
It was bands like No Doubt and Safe Ferris that inspired women everywhere to first join the ska scene, leading to bands such as the Dancehall Crashers or the post-third wave band The Interrupters to form.
Like for me as a woman, like seeing like No Doubt and Safe Ferris, like that was really cool. Like felt like women were invited to the party, you know?
There weren't a lot of women in bands at that time, in ska bands or in the scene. And it really, I looked different from everybody else. Like I'm a size 12, I wear sexy dresses, I tell an entire audience of men to fuck off, you know, and you're just gonna have to fall in love with me. I'm sorry. I know I'm different, but like, here I am.
This properly cemented the third wave as a place of inclusivity, welcoming anyone who wished to join. But it was the previously mentioned Mighty Mighty Bosstones on the East Coast that properly threw ska into the mainstream with their hit song, The Impression That I Get.
Mighty Mighty Boston. Yeah! Boston, baby!
Everybody, we're back. Ladies and gentlemen, Let's Face It is the new album from my next guest. Please give a nice welcome to the Mighty Mighty Bosstones.
And every time Impression That I Get would come on, I'd be like, oh, now that's a good song. They deserve this. And then Sellout would come on and oh my God, my band sucks.
For us, it was just like such a steady climb. There was, even when we had the hit on the radio, like I think we felt like what took so long. There was never really a moment where we were like an overnight success. Maybe to a lot of people we were because of the hit song and, you know, radio and being number one on MTV for a whole summer.
Have you ever had the odds stacked up so high you need a strength most don't possess?
It was the Bosstones that truly defined what ska was to be like in the modern era and how a third wave ska band should act. It was at this point in the lead up to 1998 the third wave had cemented itself as a popular culture. But let's not forget the past and the philosophy that came in with two-tone ska, and that was the unification of mankind. In the mix of goofy suburban kids just wanting to have fun, and songs about your best friend being a metalhead, ska's political overtones, for the very reason of its formation, had been lost.
And made it just like, oh, this silly party music. But historically, ska was very political.
Unity, togetherness, getting each other's back, inclusiveness, racial harmony, like these were big things.
So tours such as the Ska Against Racism tour were set up to combat this. No longer would people look at ska as cheap party music. Ska was once again the music for unity of everyone, yet still a million miles removed from its Jamaican roots.
A singer one time said, I can't change the world, but I can change the world around me. And what that means is each one of you guys up front and all the way in the back and everyone over here, we gotta start being non-hatred against other people, okay?
But at its height, ska crashed. Without evolving properly into its next form, the genre became oversaturated. It seemed as though almost everybody with a horn formed a ska band. The genre had lost its track, blinded by drowning in the mainstream eye, leading many to turn their back on ska.
It was a time where there was no choice. You had to turn your back on ska because the superficial construct of ska was so commercialized and overblown. Every Food Network song was a ska Real Big Fish copy. Every Target commercial was like a bouncy, another Real Big Fish copy. And so when it becomes like the, I guess, just mainstream sell bullshit with no consciousness of a subgenre that people felt real ownership of, I don't blame anybody at that time for turning their back to it because you weren't playing ska anymore, you were playing Food Network music.
This marked the end for the third wave scene in America, but music evolved and changes, and surrounding countries picked up the genre in its rawest and most simple form, and turned it into something they can call theirs. It was with the third wave that ska saw its biggest spike in popularity, letting anyone anywhere with an internet connection listen to their favourite song about selling out. Ska's internationality helped it spread around the world, with its waves centering around 3 countries, those being humble beginnings in Jamaica, the fastest sound in the UK, and true mainstream success in America. It was almost like a seed being planted in those 3 countries and let to grow just waiting for people to stumble upon the sound and pick it up.
This is their album. It's called Fight the Good Fight. Here with the song She's Kerosene, The Interrupters.
I'm a match, she's kerosene. You know she gonna burn down everything. She an arsonist in a pastime. And I've been burned for the last time.
Bands like The Interrupters are carrying the main third wave torch in America with their single, She's Kerosene. Receiving the most critical acclaim and radio plays of a ska band since No Doubt. Could Amy Allen be the next Gwen Stefani? Only time to tell.
Executioner, she is the queen. And he's the one whose neck is in the guillotine. And he said, I'm a match, she ain't kerosene. You know she gonna burn down everything. She's an arsonist in a pastime.
Places like Chile deal with social upheaval and outside interference of global superpowers almost on the daily. It was these hardships that shaped two-tone, and so in the modern day we can see this happening once more. Chilean artists such as Ana Tijoux tells the story of her world and her experiences in her own language.
Because I think music is like, how you say this, is like the biography of your life. My parents are always been involved in politics. My mother used to be in a punk band when I was young. I think my mother used to be protesting when I was in rebel, you say? I think that was already in my DNA at home. And in the 80s, Los Prisioneros arrived with another perspective with music.
Dispuesta a venderse por algunos USA dollars. Nadie en el resto del planeta toma en serio a este inmenso pueblo lleno de tristeza.
And when you listen to Prisionero, it's like, no, we're going to burn everything. But ironic, action, 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 action in the street, action now. And I think that was a bomb for the youth in the 80s. I love when I see an artist that is honest and not trying to be kind or nice. I love the specials. For me it was so hip-hop, like a mixture between England, Jamaica, orgasm in my ear. I was like, they're fucking amazing. I love that band. If you think about the specials, if you think about Public Enemy, if you think about NWA, is a response of a very specific moment of crisis, political, social, or economic, when the rage becomes songs, basically. And that's a magic moment.
When the rage becomes the songs, that's a magic moment. My personal experience of live shows is quite limited, but I was lucky enough to go see Real Big Fish in November 2019 with some of my mates, and it was...
I am losing my mind! I'm dying out here!
Pretty good. To our surprise, we were the youngest people in the audience, which is what you'd expect from a band most popular in the 90s. The lead singer, Aaron Barrett, delivered some of his best live vocals for some of their most famous songs, including Sell Out, She Has a Girlfriend Now, and Beer. Real Big Fish is probably the most famous ska band in the Western world at the moment. It was an absolute treat to see them, being meters away from moshing mid-30s, listening to some seriously catchy songs with your best mate is something only a few people get to experience. And for that, I am truly thankful, and I give a great thanks to Real Big Fish for it. I'm very happy to stand here today to tell you about ska, music that since its early inception in the 1950s, it became a bigger reality in everyone's minds than anyone could have ever thought. A genre used to express angst and anger towards the establishment, a genre used to change people's perspectives and minds, and a genre used as a cathartic release for those who had no places to turn to.
From the back alleys and gang warfare of Kingston, Jamaica, with Prince Buster, the Scatterlights, Toots and the Maytals, and Desmond Decker, to the overcrowded and emotional riots of the UK, with the Specials, Madness, Bad Manners, The Beat, The Selector, and the Body Snatchers, to the bright and the fantastical vitality of the Americas, with No Doubt, Real Big Fish, The Toasters, The Bosstones, Sublime, and Streetlight Manifesto, and many, many more. This is Ska.
Stop your messing around. Better think of your future. Time you straighten right out. Creating problems in town. Routine. A message to you. Routine. A message to you. Stop your fooling around. Time you straighten right out. Better think of your future. Else you wind up in jail. Routine. A message to you.